So, we reached the disastrous climax of the Golden Axe Retrospective, and what do you know? While I was working on it, Sega dropped a never-before-seen bit of Golden Axe history. Dropped during their 60th anniversary celebration, what Sega dubbed as Golden Axed. A simple vertical slice of what was supposed to be a new age Golden Axe video game. It was nothing more than a one-level demo developed by Sega Australia all the way back in 2012. Let's get the unfortunate bit of Golden Axed out of the way first. Axed was born from developmental crunch at Sega Australia as shared by developer Tim Dawson. They crunched out Axe over a 2-week period while working 14-hour days the entire time. And unfortunately it was all for nothing, as we never knew anything about this game until 2020. Regardless, let's take a look at this little slice of lost history. Axe is a 2.5D beat-em-up style game with more gritty aesthetics, kinda similar to Beast Rider, but admittedly not as extreme as that one. You get to play as this guy, assumedly Axe Battler since he's building the Claymore and he does a shoulder block attack too. You move pretty quickly, have a light combo and a heavy combo to slay your foes with, and while there is a magic bar, magic attacks were absent in this demo, unfortunately. You also spill blood pretty copiously with every slash too, so that's fun. I feel like blood and higher levels of violence work really well with Golden Axe. You'll spend the whole of this 7-minute demo hacking through these long moan looking fellers until you eventually come face to face with Death Adder, who rises from his throne to fight you just as the demo ends. This was a fun little demo. It would have been nice to see this one come to fruition so Beast Rider wouldn't be the last Golden Axe game. It is an obvious shame how this game was born though, so let's switch over to something different so I can end this retrospective on a high note at least, instead of a low one. Golden Axe Myth. Yet another fan game developed with the open BOR engine, so it's doubly appropriate to review on this channel. Developed by a dedicated fan team from Argentina, Myth is a prequel game attempting to set the stage of Golden Axe just before the first one begins. Story-wise, the Empire of the Joined Lands is a powerful nation that rules over the lands of Uria and has been doing so peacefully for generations now. But as evil tends to do, it rises up in the form of an unnamed titan from Uria's history. Fortunately, the council had the Golden Axe to protect it. Unfortunately, the titan tricked the council and stole the axe from them. Thankfully, the 4 greatest heroes in the land team up to get the axe back and restore peace to the nation. The council backs these warriors up by teaching them an elemental magic, and the fearsome force them head out on their oh-so-noble quest. These 4 are, of course, your playable characters for Myth, and they're all familiar faces. Beefcake Barbarian Axe Battler and his earth magic, Amazonian War Princess Tyrus Flare and her fearsome fire magic, Stout Dwarven Warrior Gilius Thunderhead and the classic lightning magic, and, very surprisingly, Death Adder rounds out the 4-man crew. Apparently a Bishi boy under that helmet, Adder sports a massive flare and uses death magic, as is to be expected. Myth has also slightly rebalanced the classic sliding scale for the warriors too. Tyrus is still the fastest warrior with the best magical capabilities. Axe Battler strikes the balance between magical and physical power. Gilius, while still having strong melee power of course, instead now has the highest health pool, while Death Adder is the strongest when it comes to raw attack damage. Adder's magic is also pretty strong too, but this is compensated for by his glacial pace of movement. To talk about the thing that sticks out most with Myth at a glance, this game definitely sports a very different art style when compared to the original series. Myth's style is definitely very cartoony, partly anime inspired for sure too. Not a bad one at all, though. I'm a big fan of how a lot of these characters are animated, actually, especially Gilius, and doubly so for his running animation. Tyrus also looks very nice, too. I have no reason in particular for saying this.
Honka-donka-badonkas.
I've also learned that everything was drawn and animated for this game specifically. That's a level of dedication I haven't seen in an open BOR project yet. Custom sprites, movesets for each character, magical attacks for each character, enemies, and the levels too. This is actually a crazy amount of work for a project like this, so props to everyone that took part in it. Also, all of the music is respectful remixes of the original tracks, and the sound effects are pretty nice too. I can't complain. Gameplay-wise, it's also obviously pretty tight. This is open BOR after all, an absolutely perfect skeleton for any beat-em-up idea. Every character controls really well, and all their movesets are interesting and have their own gimmicks to use and abuse. On my winning run, for instance, I use Gilius, and instead of a falling attack like a Golden Axe character typically has, old Gil here has a Blanka Ball instead, one which he can keep balling from. One if you use, the enemy can barely ever deal with you. If you're playing Gil, by all means master this technique, and every enemy and every boss will basically be unable to touch you. Each character also now has an upward and downward dash for quick evasion of enemy attacks, in addition to their normal walk and run, obviously. I like Adder's up and down dash, because it looks like he's headbanging very hard. Each character can double jump now too, and in addition to evading attacks, you have a parry, which can send opponents into a stunned state if you successfully manage to deflect an attack. The game weirdly lists it as a block though, but don't be fooled, it functions right as a parry. There's also a rage mechanic in the game, which upon filling this little bar right here, you can activate. It massively increases your damage and makes you totally invincible for the duration. For pickups, you have the classics, of course, delicious looking video game food and magical pots, but there's also some new additions here. You have a rage potion, which fills your entire rage bar, of course, as well as these trading cards, which teach you some random stuff about the characters in-game, heroes and villains. Biggest, though, are these little shields and swords, which raise your defensive power and attack power respectively. Useful for obvious reasons, especially for heavy hitters like Gilius, and also obviously for someone like Tyrus, who, having weaker melee power, this can compensate for it pretty well. Story-wise, Myth tells its tales through text box dialogue between the heroes and villains, though I won't lie, the dialogue in this game is a bit awkward at times. It seems we found one of their generals. I was, in fact, feeling a bit hungry. Were you gonna eat this man, Gilius? He will not allow us to pass without fighting. Let us rend him and feast on his flesh. I like that Death Adder's a complete psychopath in his lines. We should mess with that Biff, believe me. But I'm gonna chalk this up to the team not speaking English natively, or maybe it's just a poor translation. At the worst, the lines are funny, so it's not too bothersome, truth be told. An average playthrough of Myth will run you through about 11 levels of combat in total, with all sorts of side areas sprinkled throughout the experience. Even better is, after every big level you do, you'll get the choice to do battle in one of 2 different locations on the way to the next big level. There's a really good amount of replayability here with this game. Forests, cities, ice and lava caves, Great Wall of China, and even sandy beaches are among the locations you tour here in Myth. The levels look nice and are really diverse when it comes to the scenery. I love it. As is Golden Axe tradition too, you'll be able to mount up with a variety of monsters. It's here I have to dock some points of this game. There's no chicken leg. What the hell? I feel like the chicken leg always gets shafted when it comes to later Golden Axe games. Thankfully, the blue and pink dragons return, maintaining their AoE fire and fireball attacks, of course, in addition to a white dragon now with a frost breath that freezes enemies over entirely. There's also a golem, which is a giant, big, slow-ass monstrosity with a really long punch that clears the entire screen. My favorite of the new mounts, though, is probably the giant toad. When I first got on the toad, I panicked a bit because I wasn't being allowed to move. I thought the game might be broken, but as it turns out, the toad can only move through jumping, which is both accurate and hilarious. Lastly, there's a chimera that's unique in that it doesn't have a running attack, but its normal attack hits both in front of it and behind it. The running attacks of the beast are super strong now, though, no joke. Even more so than the breath attacks. Also, quick note, do not mash your mount's breath attack. This locks the creature up and leaves you completely vulnerable to be smacked down. Probably a bug, but not a fun one for certain. As for your enemies, you'll be doing battle with all sorts of miscreants, with some classics returning and a bunch of newbies to help shake things up quite a bit. You have your Longmoans and your Henniningers making their return here, on top of the Amazon women too, of course. Skeletons too, thankfully, but these ones are looking a lot less lively than they used to be, for certain. Guess Adder perfected necromancy versus this titan, that's for sure. The Bad Brothers are here as well. Interestingly, they're immune to dashing attacks in this game and will actively laugh in your face if you attempt to hit one on them. Bitter Knights return too, this time much slower, but this is compensated with by a projectile attack and the ability to teleport right on top of you. I guess technically Lizardmen would be returning too, but these guys don't even resemble the classic Golden Axe 2 ones, so I'll put them in an entirely new category. Same goes for the Deadwood, which I honestly thought was just some monster hiding in a tree trunk, but apparently it's just a whole dead-ass ent. You'll also now be menaced from the skies by harpies as well. The Plasma Villain, which is an elementally based on what level you're fighting them in. Pretty cool, pretty cool. You also have these teeny monsters like the Baby Dragon and the Flying Plague. There's also the hilariously named Fat Rock, an obese rock golem who can explode himself to get you off him. Thieves, of course, return, but in addition to the green and blue, now sport white variants, which drop the shield and sword power-ups, and red variants, which drop the rage potions. She'll also do battle with a new cavalcade of bosses too, but I gotta be honest, the first boss is more of a funny one to me than anything. Look at this dude, he's got snakes for hands. More intimidating at least is the Mega Giant, a cycloptic nightmare. The Dragon Master, who, while he looks cool, is probably the easiest boss to beat since he's very easily parried. Then there's the Swamp Demon, which is just a giant head, one that melts when you kill him. Oh yeah, to bring it up briefly, there's a good bit of gore in this game too. A lot of enemies just fall to pieces on death. The basic grunts get their limbs hacked off, and a few bosses just melt into piles of shit. Also, if your magic kills basic enemies, it fries them into skeletons. It even fries the skeletons into skeletons. Once again, I have to say, I like the gore. It appeals to my lizard brain. After you've hacked your way through the lands of Uria to the final level, a very evil-looking cave, you'll eventually cross blades with the Obscure Titan. A titan made of snakes, much like Death Adder, and one who falls back into snakes when you start whooping on him. After his phase 1 goes down, he morphs into a horrid centaur creature for another fight. You put him down again and your quest has succeeded. Hooray! Except oops, Death Adder betrays everyone and steals the axe, putting together his own army, having the family of the other heroes slaughtered, and setting the stage for the first Golden Axe game. It's then you unlock Classic Death Adder. Honestly, I wasn't expecting unlockable characters here, so that's pretty cool. He's like the normal Death Adder, except way stronger, and he wields the legendary Golden Axe itself. The game then also hits you with an epilogue level that takes place in Hell. You fight a big-ass golem, and then you fight the evil versions of the entire main cast. I accidentally did this fight with Classic Adder, which kinda adds a neat story beat since you can headcanon it to be Death Adder killing the last bits of good within himself to claim ultimate power. And after that epilogue level, the game ends with the dev team humbly thanking you for playing. Honestly guys, thank you for making this. Golden Axe Myth is a pretty fun little game. It's a bit rough around the edges in truth, but a pretty well made and enjoyable game for sure. Honestly, it feels more like a Golden Axe than half the games I played for this retrospective. And now friends, this is where I can truly put this retrospective to rest. So, for this retrospective, I reviewed 11 games in total. Golden Axe 1, Golden Axe 2, Golden Axe, The Revenge of Death Adder, Altered Beast, Golden Axe Warrior, Axe Battler, The Legend of Golden Axe, Golden Axe 3, Golden Axe, The Duel, Sega Ages Golden Axe, Golden Axe Beast Rider, and Golden Axe Myth. While it might not be fair to put them on this list, I'm gonna keep Altered Beast and Golden Axe Myth for the eventual full rating. I looked at Golden Axe 2, but that was an unfinished demo, so it won't be part of the rankings, of course. Ranking of the Golden Axe series, at least in my opinion, would look like this. The number 1 game is Revenge of Death Adder. It really is the best Golden Axe, bar none. The first Golden Axe would be quickly behind it at number 2. Golden Axe really is just a good game. It's a rock solid beat 'em up, and it's just super fun to play. Golden Axe The Duel would be at number 3. Admittedly, I'm kind of biased because, you know, I love fighting games, but Golden Axe The Duel was a really pleasant surprise. It was a lot of fun. I'd like to play it again sometime. Slot number 4 would be Golden Axe 2. Golden Axe 2 essentially is just Golden Axe 1, but it has that sweet charge magic mechanic, which, why did they never bring that back for future Golden Axes, huh? It's a great idea. Number 5 would be Golden Axe Myth. Myth is a rough fan game. It has its problems, but honestly, it's a really, really fun Golden Axe game. Not much else to say. Number 6 would be Altered Beast. Honestly, Altered Beast ends up being higher just because of, like, the history. You know, it was the precursor to Golden Axe, obviously, so. That, and it's actually a pretty wacky, funny game. You can get a lot of enjoyment out of Altered Beast if you decide to play it. Golden Axe 3 would be at number 7. 3 isn't a bad game, but it just felt weirdly not like Golden Axe. I liked it a lot. But yeah, it's definitely not better than the rest of the ones I've listed already. At number 8 would be Beast Rider. Beast Rider is not a good game by any stretch, but I mean, at the least, Tyrus is pretty hot and the Snake Women are pretty hot. You know, there's pluses and minuses there. Golden Axe Warrior would be at number 9. I really fucking hate top-down adventure games, so yeah, this game had no chance. Maybe it'd be higher for someone else, but this game sucks and I hate it. Sega Ages Golden Axe would be at number 10. That game is an absolute mess, and like technically it's terrible too because of all the slowdown, so it's why it ends up being so low on this list. And at the bottom spot is Axe Battler, The Legend of Golden Axe. The combat system sucked, the battles sucked, the leveling sucked, everything about that game just sucked, but yeah, it's a Game Gear game, so what am I expecting, really? At least I ended this series on a high note. Since the revival of Streets of Rage 4, though, I've been hopeful for another Golden Axe. Preferably from the same exact guys that did Streets of Rage 4, of course. I don't know what they'd do with it, but I know they'd kill it when it comes to gameplay, and honestly, that's what matters most. Until a new Golden Axe game comes out, though, I'll have to say goodbye to the series. It'll always be a series that means a lot to me, obviously, it being one of the games that helped form my taste and interest in video games over time, but it's time to move on now. I don't think I'll ever do another full retrospective like this again, at least not for a bit, and even if I did, I don't think I'd announce it like I did with the first one, so I can work on a given series as I like. Regardless, we'll see what the future holds. As always, though, thanks for watching, really. My name is HadesManticore, this here channel is CityStateManticore, and this monster was the Golden Axe Retrospective. I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye.